This podcast contains descriptions of violence against children and adult language and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hi everyone, and welcome to Suffer the Little Children, the podcast giving voices back to victims of child abuse murder and their families. I'm your host, Lane, and this is episode 166, Serenity Robinson. On February 17, 2020, police in Fort Myers, Florida responded to a horrific single-vehicle accident in which a minivan carrying 2 women and a 3-year-old girl veered off the road, hit several palm trees, and flipped over. The little girl, Serenity Robinson, was not in a car seat and was unrestrained. Her mother, Joe Zeagler, was found to be impaired by multiple controlled substances and survived with minor injuries. Serenity was not so lucky. Leslie was arrested and charged with manslaughter. Later, Fort Myers police officer Tyler Williams was also charged after prosecutors learned he had pulled Leslie over a month earlier, found illegal drugs in the van, and let her go because he didn't feel like calling DCF that morning. Even though this officer's intervention likely would have saved Serenity's life, a judge dismissed the charges, and the only person prosecuted was her mother. In this episode, you'll also hear my conversation with Serenity's father, Randy Robinson, who hasn't given up on getting justice for his baby girl. This is the infuriating story of Serenity Robinson. I originally told Serenity's story on the blog back in 2020, and I've been in touch with her dad, Randy, ever since. February 17, 2024 marks the 4th anniversary of Serenity's death, and I thought it was time to tell her story on the podcast because this sweet little girl deserves to be remembered. Leslie Joe Zeagler was born on February 28, 1990. Leslie was the youngest of her siblings. During high school, Leslie began dabbling with drugs, and she developed an addiction to heroin during her teenage years. Randy Dion Robinson was born on December 23, 1980. When he was about 33, he went to a friend's house, where he was introduced to 23-year-old Leslie. Randy thought Leslie was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. And to be fair, she was gorgeous, with striking features, hazel eyes, and long blonde hair. Randy, however, was married with 3 children, so he let the moment pass. Soon after this fateful meeting, Randy went to jail for a probation violation, while Leslie's family sent her to drug rehab in New York State. 2 years after their initial meeting, the two ran into each other again. By this time, Randy and his wife had separated, and he and Leslie immediately began dating and soon moved in together. Unfortunately, by this time, Leslie had relapsed and was once again using heroin, and her family was fed up and had little to do with her. About 3 months into her relationship with Randy, Leslie discovered she was pregnant. Randy took her to Cape Coral Hospital for prenatal care, where she was seen only 3 or 4 times before the hospital found a variety of drugs in her system and refused to see her again due to her use of various substances. Serenity Rose Robinson was born at Gulf Coast Hospital in Fort Myers, Florida on August 24, 2016, about a week before her due date. Because of Leslie's drug use, Serenity was born with opiates in her system and showed symptoms of opiate withdrawal, which necessitated a stay in the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, or NICU, at Sarasota Memorial Hospital for about a month and a half. The Lee County Department of Children and Families, or DCF, became involved when Serenity was born, and a judge gave temporary custody of the baby to Leslie's sister, allowing Leslie and Randy supervised visits. Randy and Leslie received a case plan, compliance with which would allow them to earn custody of their daughter. With the judge's permission, Leslie moved in with her sister's family, and she began taking the requisite classes as ordered. Randy, who worked 10 hours a day during the week in construction and remodeling and spent his weekends in the NICU with his daughter, also relapsed into drug use at this time. His relationship with Leslie fell apart, and Leslie's family turned on him. Leslie essentially stopped allowing Randy to see Serenity for about 6 months. When she did pop up to allow Randy to see the baby, Randy was floored to find out that his ex-girlfriend was allegedly buying drugs from her DCF caseworker, a woman named Ashley. It seemed that while Leslie was completing the requirements of her DCF case plan, on paper, she was far from clean. This wasn't the only time DCF outright failed baby Serenity either. For a while, Leslie and Serenity were staying with her mother, Margot, who was allegedly dating a man who was recently paroled after serving prison time for raping and killing a woman. When Randy notified DCF about the potential danger to his daughter, they dismissed his complaint and took no action. By the time Serenity was about 1.5 years old, Leslie had spiraled into heavy drug use. She and Serenity lived for a while with her friend Jessica, then moved out with a boyfriend to stay for stretches of time in motels. She was also spending time with a friend named Carly Hartnett, who was allegedly also involved with drugs. Randy was living with his girlfriend, Kelly Schwartz, who had 2 kids of her own. Leslie often came to Randy and Kelly's home to sleep and eat, and Serenity was close with Kelly's kids, especially her daughter, who was only a couple of years older than Serenity. The two were like sisters. Leslie was friendly with Kelly as well. In late 2019, Randy was charged with driving while his license was suspended as a habitual offender. He agreed to turn himself in to spend 7.5 months in the Lee County Jail, during which he would participate in the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program, or RSAT. During his time in jail, he would also work on the parenting and anger management classes he needed to complete the DCF case plan he hadn't finished after Serenity's birth. He could see how severe Leslie's drug problem was becoming, and he wanted to do everything he could to ensure he could take over caring for Serenity after he was released. The last time Randy saw Serenity was in October 2019, the day before he turned himself in to participate in RSAT. At the time, Leslie and Serenity were staying with Leslie's mom, Margot. On that day, he was surprised when Serenity willingly gave him kisses, unlike their usual game in which she made him chase her to get kisses. He also felt that something was telling him not to leave Serenity that day, but he knew he had to turn himself in, serve his time, and do what he needed to do to protect Serenity from her mother's addiction. Randy had no idea that by the time he was released, it would be too late. Between Margot, Kelly, and various other friends and family members, Leslie had a lot of support available to her at the time. It wasn't enough to drag her away from her drug-fueled lifestyle. Around this time, DCF once again became involved with Leslie and Serenity after some kind of domestic incident involving Leslie's mother and her boyfriend, the registered sex offender. There was also a report that heroin was being sold out of the home. Around this time, Margot kicked Leslie out, and she began staying with a friend. As 2019 turned into 2020, Leslie's life was spiraling downward, and her addiction was only growing worse. Just before 5 a.m. on January 18, 2020, Fort Myers police officer Tyler Williams, a 4-year veteran of the force, pulled over a silver 2005 Kia minivan for speeding. The driver was 30-year-old Carly Hartnett, whose father owned the van, and in the passenger seat was Carly's friend, 29-year-old Leslie Zeagler. Sleeping in the back seat was Leslie's daughter, 3-year-old Serenity Robinson. During the traffic stop, Officer Williams' body cam recorded footage showing syringes that later tested positive for heroin, including a loaded one that was full and ready to shoot up, as well as a plastic bag containing crystal meth. In the body cam footage, Williams asked the women about the drugs, which they denied owning, saying someone else had recently used the vehicle. Williams said he didn't believe them, but he also told them they weren't being arrested. Here is some of the audio from that body cam footage.
Listen, I'm going to be straight with you guys, all right? What we have now, I have felony charges on both of you guys.
So
all right?
sorry.
Listen, I still haven't said anyone's going to jail yet, all right?
Anything that we can do to just tell us.
I have a bag.
I don't know. I don't with meth. That's one thing I don't.
$5 worth.
I don't.
With heroin, all right?
I do, but
listen,
I don't.
Listen. All right, I don't buy your I haven't used in a couple months thing. I'm just being straight with you.
Okay, I understand.
Alright, I got used needles in the purse. Alright, it's not your purse anymore because it's just found in the car. Listen, alright, there's needles all over the car. There's loaded needles all over the car with heroin inside. Alright, I got a bag of crystal inside the car. Okay. I have a 3-year-old child inside the car. Okay. So I'm gonna put this in reality for you, and hopefully we can change our habits in the future. Alright? Again, I'm not saying I'm taking you to jail, alright, because we're gonna have a whole come to Jesus that we're gonna change our lifestyle, because I don't need this in front of a child. Alright? Because ultimately what's gonna happen is I would take you both, I build the car, and the state takes a child. Alright? And that's just the reality of the situation, because you're gonna have felony narcotics in the same vehicle as a sleeping 3-year-old. Alright? That little girl, it's a beautiful little girl, she does not deserve that. Alright? And that's solely based on your actions as her parent and mother. That's where we're at. I'm not sending DCF anywhere. Okay. At the end of the night, you guys are getting out of here with your child in this car. Okay. Well, I'm going to document everything that is found in the car within 10 feet of your child. All right. And you driving. All right. The needle's in plain view. All right, I can see it standing outside of your car, leaned up against your leg with the cap next to you. All right. And I got a bag of ice in the middle of both of you guys.
Although this part wasn't in the clip I saw, according to the transcript of the full body cam video, Carly made quite the generous offer. I mean, I don't fucking care. I'll do anything you guys want. I don't give a shit. You want me to go buy for you? I will. Right in front of her, I'll say it. Anything you guys want. Williams responded, You have a child with you, and I can't have you buying narcotics with a child present. He then told the women, I promise you, okay? I literally am tasked to just drive up and down Cleveland for 12 hours straight, right? I know your face. I know your face. I know this car. Beautiful daughter you have, all right? Beautiful daughter. I promise you, if I see you on Cleveland again, I will find a reason to pull you over. I will have a narcotics dog come search the car. Whatever I find, I promise you, whoever's there is going to take a ride, okay?
Alright, this is a freebie I'm giving you. Alright, I'm feeling gracious for some reason. I don't know why, okay? And I really don't feel like dealing with DCF at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay?
Yes, you did hear that correctly. Officer Tyler Williams, right in front of at least 2 other officers who responded as backup, told Carly and Leslie, I'm feeling gracious for some reason. I don't know why. Ultimately, I really don't feel like dealing with DCF at 6 in the morning.
Get to where you guys are going. When you get home, I would probably detail your car. Okay? I would vacuum everything. I would get all the crumbs out. I'd get the shake that's in there out of there. Alright? The wasted beef jerky on the passenger floor, we're going to get out of there. Alright? Wherever you guys are going, get there. Slow down. Okay? Especially in a construction zone. Alright? Like I said, I'm sure we will see each other again soon. Alright? So, thank God, thank you got to do that I'm feeling this way and I want to go home. Okay? So, with that being said, get your crap up the sidewalk and get out of here. Alright?
The heroin syringe was never turned in, and the crystal meth he collected from the van was not submitted for fingerprinting or analysis, although he did submit the drug the same day to be destroyed in a drug burn. Leslie went to Kelly and Randy's house after this traffic stop and told Kelly about it. For reasons she couldn't explain, Kelly felt compelled to take a photo of the license plate on the minivan Leslie arrived in. Leslie faced no consequences for this traffic stop, which could have earned her and Carly felony charges and could have resulted in DCF once again stepping in and possibly even removing Serenity from her custody. This incident wasn't enough of, in Officer Williams' words, a come-to-Jesus moment to scare Leslie straight or even alter her behavior in the least. A month later, her precious baby girl would be dead. I'll pause here for a quick sponsor break. At around 2:30 p.m. on Monday, February 17, 2020, a 2005 silver Kia minivan was traveling eastbound on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Fort Myers, Florida. Driving the van, which belonged to Carly Hartnett's father, was Leslie Joe Zeagler, who did not have a driver's license and was, according to investigators, impaired by multiple controlled substances. Both Carly and Serenity were in the back seat of the van. While driving in the far left lane near the intersection with Jacksonville Street, Leslie passed out behind the wheel, and the minivan swerved abruptly into the far right lane, striking the cement curb. The van then left the roadway, careening into 2 palm trees before rolling over, coming to rest facing westbound in the eastbound lanes. During the crash, Serenity was ejected from the vehicle, landing on the pavement near the van. There was no car seat, booster seat, or any type of child restraint device in the minivan, which of course is required by law. Serenity wasn't even secured by a seat belt, which, although it would not have met the standard of the law, might have saved her life. Leslie did not have a driver's license or a car of her own, and it's unclear if she owned a car seat. The accident happened just before rush hour and caused the eastbound lanes of the major roadway to be closed until 11:30 p.m., stranding a large number of motorists for hours. The first officer on the scene, Fort Myers police officer Brian Leon, found Serenity on the ground, bleeding severely from trauma to the head. He immediately rendered aid, and Serenity was placed into an ambulance and rushed to Lee Memorial Hospital in Fort Myers, where she succumbed to her injuries at 3:17 p.m. The adorable brown-eyed little girl with a head full of gorgeous brown curls and a sassy, larger-than-life personality, whose family lovingly called her Moo, died at just 3.5 years old. Leslie and Carly, who were both wearing seatbelts, were taken to the hospital and treated for minor injuries. Detective Roman Serrano from the Lee County Sheriff's Office, a drug recognition officer and instructor for the drug recognition program, was called to the hospital when medical staff suspected Leslie was impaired. When he spoke with her, Leslie told Detective Serrano that all she remembered was blacking out and then waking up after the crash. He noted that Leslie's eyes were bloodshot, her speech was slow and slurred, her movements were slow, and she appeared dazed. On the Fort Myers Police Department alcohol influence report, which was filled out by police at the scene, an officer indicated Leslie's speech was slurred, mumbled, soft, and slow. Her attitude was crying, cooperative, and sleepy, and her face was dazed and pale. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her clothing was disheveled. Someone handwrote on the report that Leslie appeared to be on the nod, which means drifting in and out of consciousness, usually due to using heroin or other opioids. The Fort Myers Police Department began an investigation into the accident, assisted by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, with charges pending immediately. Several witnesses to the accident and its aftermath spoke with reporters. Donna Gross told a reporter that the driver was clearly distraught. "She was just crying and yelling, 'The baby is my life. I live for her. She's all I have left. Please let her live.'" Rob Sorensen rushed to the family's aid when he witnessed the accident and immediately attended to Serenity, who was gravely injured. He told a reporter, "It just broke my heart. I prayed over her and just asked Jesus, make sure she's okay and stuff like that. And to Serenity, come on, you gotta make it. You have a full life ahead of you." Fort Myers Police traffic homicide investigator Officer Daniel Aguilera responded to the crash scene, where he found that when the van had rolled, all of the windows had shattered, and multiple items had flown out of the vehicle, including several hypodermic needles, empty baggies, and prescription pills. A witness at the scene, Anthony Rivera, told Officer Aguilera that he came upon the scene after the accident took place and spoke with Carly, who was screaming about the baby. He said she pulled a purple bag out of her brown purse and opened it, showing him that it contained drug paraphernalia, including small Ziploc baggies. Carly offered Anthony $10, begging him not to let them find it, at which point she tossed the purple bag behind her into the ditch, where police later found it. Officer Aguilera took several photos of the crash scene before reporting to the hospital to speak with Leslie and Carly, both of whom showed signs of impairment, including slurred speech and dozing off while they spoke with him. Carly told the officer that when the accident occurred, they were driving to Cape Coral to pick up a car seat for Serenity. She said all she remembered from the accident was tumbling around inside the van while trying to reach for Serenity. After the tumbling stopped, she jumped out of the rear driver's side window of the van to attend to Serenity on the ground. Officer Aguilera then went to a separate room to speak with Leslie. After the investigator read Leslie her Miranda rights, she agreed to continue speaking with him. She said she was merging into the right lane when she blacked out, which prompted the officer to ask if she had a history of blackouts or seizures, to which Leslie said no. He also asked her if she was on any medication or drugs, and she told him she wasn't, although she told him she did go to a methadone clinic. Leslie told the officer that Serenity was buckled in at the time of the crash, admitting that there wasn't a car seat in the van for her. She then asked the officer what all these questions were about and where her daughter was, and he told her he didn't know Serenity's condition. I couldn't find any information indicating who broke the news to Leslie that Serenity was gone. Blood tests found that at the time of the crash, Leslie was under the influence of nordazepam, Valium, cocaine, methadone, fentanyl, and methamphetamine. Officer Aguilera obtained a search warrant of the vehicle, which turned up a number of empty baggies containing an unknown white residue, as well as a full baggie inside Leslie's wallet. The van contained loose pills scattered around, including Adderall, Valium, and an antibiotic, as well as codeine cough syrup. There were also several prescription bottles and boxes, syringes, and a vast amount of other drug paraphernalia. In the area of the driver's seat, investigators found a box containing 2 doses of naloxone hydrochloride, better known as Narcan. He also contacted DCF to report Serenity's death, and he attended Serenity's autopsy on February 19th, during which medical examiner Dr. Noelia Hernandez determined that Serenity's cause of death was primarily blunt force head trauma caused by the accident. Officer Aguilera also spoke with the first 2 witnesses on the scene of the accident, Troy and Katrina Bombardier, who reported the accident in a 911 call. Troy was driving when they saw the Kia minivan behind them veer off the road. Katrina saw something fly out the window when the van flipped, and she began screaming at her husband when she realized what she thought was a blanket had little legs sticking out of it. The Bombardiers pulled over, and Troy ran to Serenity's aid, finding her head was bleeding severely and mentioning her scalp. He tried to put pressure on the wound, and Serenity began aspirating blood. All the while, he said, the child's mother, who he described as a skinny female with blonde hair, was screaming at him to please save her baby. Another witness, Yordi Perez, responded to the Fort Myers Police Department's media release asking for anyone who had witnessed the accident to call in. Mr. Perez gave Officer Aguilera a statement on February 21, 2020, saying he was in the right lane when the van driven by Leslie abruptly swerved into his lane, hit the curb, hit the trees, and flipped over. He said he saw Leslie get out of the driver's seat and run to the back of the van, where she picked Serenity up off the pavement and ran her over to the grass, where she began wiping blood off the baby. At the time of Serenity's death, her father, Randy, was still in jail. A family member made a plea on Facebook for help paying to furlough him so he could attend his daughter's funeral. He was released from the Lee County Jail in May of 2020. Meanwhile, in March of that year, Leslie's life continued to spiral out of control. She wasn't immediately charged in Serenity's death, but she was charged with petty theft in the 2nd degree after being caught shoplifting from Walmart in Fort Myers. According to the probable cause statement, the store's loss prevention officer, Eric Metz, called the police and reported that Leslie took several items from the store's jewelry department, stashing them in her purse. She then hit up the home office section of the store, replacing the tags on several items with tags from lower-priced items, before fleeing the store through the outside vestibule without paying for any of her items, which included some makeup, a planner, a wallet, a $2 tank top, and some stickers. The merchandise was worth a total of $54.27. Police released her at the scene after issuing her a notice to appear. That case was closed when Leslie entered into a pretrial diversion agreement, also known as a deferred prosecution agreement. She agreed to pay court costs and avoid breaking the law, moving, changing jobs, or leaving the state for the next 3 months. After charges relating to the February crash that killed Serenity were finalized, Leslie, who lived in Cape Coral with her family and who turned 30 not long after the accident, turned herself in to the Fort Myers police just after midnight on Monday, April 20th, 2020. She was held in the Lee County Jail on charges of aggravated manslaughter of a child by culpable negligence and DUI manslaughter, both felonies, as well as a misdemeanor charge of driving with a suspended license. After Leslie's arrest, the Fort Myers Police Department said in a press release, "The senseless death of Serenity is one that certainly could have been avoided. The Fort Myers Police Department reminds motorists not to drive while impaired and certainly not with a restrained or unrestrained child in the car." Creating episodes like these can be difficult, and it takes a lot of mental energy to do the research, writing, recording, and editing it takes to get even one episode published. As I pushed myself closer to burnout toward the end of last year, it was getting harder and harder to focus and motivate myself, which is why I had to take a few months off from the podcast. I did find something that, in addition to some much-needed mental health support, has helped a ton. Instead of just pumping more coffee into my system, I've been using Magic Mind, and I love it. These little green shots have helped me so much by getting me into a motivated, productive state of mind. I've been using Magic Mind for a couple of months now, and it's been a massive help with my focus, concentration, and energy levels. I also definitely have less stress and anxiety, partly because Magic Mind helps me get things done, but also because it contains L-theanine, a compound that naturally lowers your body's stress levels. Magic Mind also contains matcha, which has a lot less caffeine than coffee and contains compounds called catechins, which are responsible for extending the benefits of caffeine by slowing your body's ability to absorb it. Magic Mind has a bunch of other ingredients too, including nootropics and adaptogens that improve your memory, attention span, and ability to process and learn new information, reduce stress, anxiety, and fatigue, improve mental and physical endurance and mental clarity, and help reduce inflammation and strengthen your immune system. With how much Magic Mind has helped me get back on track, I highly recommend it to anyone who has trouble functioning at 100% some days. The Magic Mind team created an offer just for my listeners. You'll get 50% off your first subscription or 20% off your first one-time purchase. Just visit magicmind.com/STLC and use the discount code STLC20. That's magicmind.com/STLC and use discount code STLC20. This 50% off code only lasts 10 days, so make sure you order soon. That's magicmind.com/STLC and use discount code STLC20. Let me know what you think if you try it. Now, back to Serenity's story. Leslie Zeagler would not be the only arrest made in connection with Serenity's death. During a press conference on June 9, 2020, Fort Myers Police Chief Derek Diggs announced that a second arrest had been made in the case.
The purpose of this news conference is to announce that the Fort Myers Police Department, in coordination with the State Attorney's Office, has, as of today, made an arrest of one of our own officers after a criminal investigation stemming from an internal affairs complaint. Our investigation determined Officer Tyler Williams failed in his duty to protect a young child who will not be named at this time by failing to contact the Department of Children and Family Services when he had a lawful duty to do so after conducting a traffic stop several months prior, and there were circumstances indicating that a child's safety and welfare may be in jeopardy. The incident leading to this arrest occurred on January 18th at approximately 4:50 in the morning, when Officer Williams stopped a vehicle at the intersection of Colonial Boulevard and Solomon Avenue for speeding. The details of this case cannot be disclosed at this time, as this is a fresh and very active investigation. The investigation into Officer Williams' actions and inactions was initiated by the Fort Myers Police Department in consultation with our Inspector General after an inquiry into the circumstances of the traffic stop. The completed criminal investigation was presented to the State Attorney's Office after a careful review. And after this review, they issued an arrest warrant resulting in criminal charges against Officer Williams for knowingly and willfully failing to report known or suspected child abuse, abandonment, or neglect as a mandatory reporter, in violation of Florida Statute 39.205, subsection 1, and that is a felony of the third degree. Officer Williams is now in the custody of the Lee County Jail. Williams has been placed on an unpaid administrative leave and may also face internal charges for violating department policy. I request that any further questions regarding this incident be directed to the State Attorney's Office. Thank you all very much.
In the initial complaint, FMPD Lieutenant Brian O'Reilly claimed that Williams failed to notify DCF about possible abuse, abandonment, or neglect, and he also failed to conduct a thorough preliminary investigation during the January traffic stop. In a second complaint, Sergeant Dan Losapio claimed that Williams inappropriately discarded the syringes he found during the traffic stop by placing them in the rear driver's side wheel well of the van. 25-year-old Tyler Douglas Williams, who was born on January 3, 1995, faced a third-degree felony charge of knowingly and willingly failing to report known or suspected child abuse, abandonment, or neglect as a mandatory reporter. He was released from the Lee County Jail on the afternoon of Tuesday, June 9th, on a $10,000 bond. In court, Williams' attorney said his client did not call DCF about the traffic stop based on his experience in the field. After Officer Williams' arrest, a neighbor told reporters that he discussed with them finding drug paraphernalia in Leslie's car during the January traffic stop. He had made the comment, "1 bag, 5 people, no one's going to admit it. It's just take it away and tell them to stay out of trouble and send them down the road." Another neighbor said, "He's in shock. He can't wrap his mind around what's going on. He's a good person. He doesn't deserve this." So, how did Williams' arrest come about? The day after the accident that killed Serenity, the Fort Myers Police Department received calls from Kelly Schwartz, Randy Robinson's girlfriend at the time. You may remember I mentioned earlier that Kelly took a photo of the minivan's license plate when Leslie showed up at her house after the January traffic stop. While on the phone with Randy, who was in jail, Kelly made a 3-way call to the Fort Myers Police Department and asked for the name of the officer involved in the traffic stop on January 18, 2020. Kelly then made a call directly to Officer Williams, who later returned her call. When Williams called Kelly, she happened to be on the phone with Randy, so she merged the calls without warning Williams that Randy was on the line. During that call, Williams reluctantly discussed with Kelly and Randy the van accident, Serenity's death, and the January traffic stop. Williams told Randy and Kelly that he only found a small amount of drugs in the car, and because it wasn't clear who owned the drugs, he could not arrest either woman. The transcript of the phone call shows that Tyler told Kelly and Randy that he did report the January traffic stop to DCF, but they took too long to respond. DCF countered that this allegation was untrue. The agency had no record of Officer Tyler Williams requesting its involvement in January. In fact, the last time he contacted DCF about a case was in 2017. Had he contacted DCF, Williams would have learned that the agency had previous involvement with Leslie, beginning in August of 2016 when Serenity was born with opiates in her system and showing symptoms of opiate withdrawal. Maybe he would have realized that letting these women go with barely a warning could be exceptionally dangerous for Serenity. Kelly immediately reached out to the FMPD's Internal Affairs Office, informing them about the January traffic stop, Williams' inaction, and the 3-way phone call. The day after that phone call, Officer Williams was placed on paid leave from the police department. 4 months later, his leave status was changed from paid to unpaid when he was criminally charged. Wink News interviewed Randy and Kelly after Williams' arrest. Randy told the reporter, "It's disappointing, you know. We expect the officers of the law to do, the right thing, or at least protect kids. It upsets me, man, because my baby could be here had he done what he was supposed to do." Although he cried tears of joy when he heard that Williams would be arrested, Randy said, the elation didn't last long. In tears, he said, "It's just hard, man. I just want justice for my baby. That's all. Hopefully she can change things out here for the next little kid." Unfortunately, the justice Randy sought was nowhere to be seen. Time for another quick sponsor break. A motion to dismiss, filed on behalf of Tyler Williams in May of 2020, claimed, "Officer Williams used his discretion in not charging anyone due to the issues related to constructive possession, and no drugs found on either person." Constructive possession is a legal doctrine in Florida relating to motor vehicle searches in which illicit drugs or weapons are found. Constructive possession takes place when an individual doesn't have physical possession of the drug or weapon, but does know about its presence, and has the ability to maintain control or dominion over it. A single person or multiple people can be charged with constructive possession if drugs are present in the vehicle. Williams' defense, basically, was that he didn't charge Leslie and Carly for constructive possession due to the numerous prior cases in which the state refused to prosecute. He claimed that Serenity's death was unrelated to the January traffic stop, and then also nitpicked the definition of child abuse, neglect, or abandonment, claiming that because Serenity was asleep, appeared clean and healthy, and was not distressed at the time of the traffic stop, he had no reason to suspect any of those things. Essentially, it seemed he was hell-bent on getting the charges dropped as a technicality. Unfortunately, that's pretty much exactly what happened. The state rightfully argued that the drugs and paraphernalia scattered around the van could construe neglect. During a September 2020 court hearing, prosecutor Deborah Cunningham asked Williams about the traffic stop. "You were feeling gracious for some reason and were going to give them a freebie, correct?" Williams replied, "Yes, ma'am. Based on past experiences with DCF, I get the same answer every time, that it doesn't justify an investigation to them and they're not going to be looking into it any further." The prosecutor implied that was a lie he told himself to ease his guilty conscience. On November 2, 2020, incomprehensibly, Judge Nicholas Thompson granted the dismissal of Williams' charge, saying there was nothing in the material facts of the traffic stop that would give anyone reasonable cause to suspect child abuse, and there was no evidence of drug use in the car in front of the child, or evidence that Serenity was at risk of injury or harm. In his order of dismissal, Judge Thompson wrote, "There were narcotics and paraphernalia found in the vehicle. The vehicle was dirty and cluttered with belongings and refuse. The mother admitted to using a drug the night before, but did not state what drug she used. Defendant Williams speculated in the body camera video that the driver may have just come from buying the crystal meth at a hotel and that a bloody napkin might mean the driver or mother had shot up heroin recently. However, there was no evidence of a drug buy, of drug use in the vehicle in the presence of the child, that the mother had an ongoing substance abuse problem, that the child was adversely affected, or that the mother's drug use the night before adversely affected her ability to care for the child. There was no evidence that the dirty and cluttered condition of the vehicle put the child at risk of injury or harm. There is nothing in the material facts of the traffic stop alone that would have given any person reasonable cause to suspect any harm, injury, or deprivation which caused the child's physical, mental, or emotional health to be significantly impaired in order to trigger the requirement to report to DCF. Certainly, the subsequent death of the child is a tragedy, but there is no nexus between the traffic stop conducted by defendant and the accident that resulted in that death." Are you seeing red yet? After the charges were dropped, Williams' father told Wink that the whole ordeal had been a nightmare for his son. Yeah, well, imagine how much of a nightmare this ordeal had been for Serenity's dad. Randy told the same news outlet that he was upset and sad. "There was heroin, needles with heroin, meth, all this in the car with my daughter, and you're telling me that's not grounds to call DCF? That's crazy. So obviously, he didn't do the right thing. And I think the justice system has really let my daughter down and let me down." Randy said he didn't blame Williams for Serenity's death, but felt the officer should be held accountable for his inaction. "I'm not blaming him for her death because that's her mama, her mom did that. Nobody else did it. But he could have, if he would have done what he was supposed to do, my baby would be here." The internal affairs investigation was still ongoing, so Williams remained on leave, but it was changed from unpaid to paid administrative leave after his charge was dismissed. After the investigation found he violated several department policies, he was fired from the Fort Myers Police Department on February 23, 2021. During the investigation, it was determined that Williams documented the January traffic stop but did not include any additional notes. All he documented was the time of the stop, the van's tag number, that he requested additional units, and that he queried both adults' driver's licenses. He did log the bag of crystal meth into evidence, but he stated that he found it at Colonial Boulevard and Solomon Road, not mentioning that it was found as part of a traffic stop and found inside the van. Finally, the investigation found that Williams had attended several training classes surrounding investigations involving children. One of these classes instructed its participants that they needed to call DCF when they reported to a call that involved a crime involving a child. The news press reported that Williams was interviewed as part of the Internal Affairs investigation in December 2020, at which time he told Internal Affairs investigators that he had no obligation to call based on the traffic stop's circumstances and that Serenity was in no more immediate danger than a child in a household kitchen containing knives. When investigators asked why he placed 2 syringes in the rear wheel well of the van, he said, "The only thing I can think of, if I did place them in the wheel well, would be that I can't remove them from the vehicle because they are not evidence. They're just unused needles at that point, which you can buy at a convenience store. And if I take their property, I'm technically stealing at that point, and that would be no different than me taking her shoes or her cell phone out of the vehicle. But I don't recall the needle being placed in the wheel well." The other officers who provided backup on the traffic stop, Carlos Ramos and John Kuhl, said they didn't know why Williams didn't call DCF, nor did they speak with him after the van crash that caused Serenity's death. Williams immediately appealed his firing from the FMPD with the help of the Gulf Coast Police Benevolent Association, which filed a grievance saying there wasn't just cause to terminate him. The grievance claimed the firing was a violation of Williams' contract, which allowed other forms of discipline. In June of 2021, Tyler Williams signed an agreement allowing him to return to the Fort Myers Police Department pending the city's sign-off. From there, it's unclear what happened, or if Williams ever actually returned to the FMPD. In May of 2022, it appears Tyler Williams was sworn into the Hendry County Sheriff's Office, where he was assigned to the Sheriff's Office Road Patrol Unit. Let's hope that if he ever pulls over another vehicle carrying both drugs and children, he does the right thing this time instead of weaseling out from under the appropriate charges after the tragically predictable but unnecessary death of a beloved child. On July 28, 2022, Leslie pleaded no contest to all 3 of her charges, which meant she didn't wish to plead guilty but acknowledged that the prosecution had enough evidence to convict her. It's treated the same as a guilty plea in the eyes of the law. Leslie was sentenced to 15 years in prison on the negligent manslaughter charge, to be served concurrently with her sentence of 14.5 years for the DUI manslaughter charge. She was sentenced to 837 days of time served for her charge of driving with her license suspended. She will have to serve a minimum of 4 years before her release from prison will be considered. Following her prison stay, Leslie will be on drug offender probation for 2 years and then on state probation for 8 additional years. Leslie's sentence included the provision that her driver's license was permanently revoked. Upon parole, she is also prohibited from consuming alcohol or illicit drugs, and she has to attend a number of programs, perform community service, abide by a curfew, and follow multiple other guidelines to stay within the terms of her probation. Leslie Joe Zeagler, Florida Department of Corrections inmate number U61611, will turn 34 in prison on February 28, 2024. Leslie is currently serving her sentence in the Gadsden Correctional Facility, a privately owned women's prison located in Quincy, Florida. Her release date is listed as April 8, 2035, but is subject to change. She looks significantly healthier in her prison photo than she did in her mugshot, and I truly hope she can turn her life around. The world is not black and white, and addiction is a disease. I'm not excusing what Leslie did. I'm only saying that it's clear she didn't intend for her daughter to die. Next, you'll hear the conversation I had this past weekend with Serenity's dad, Randy Robinson. Today, I'm speaking with Serenity's dad, Randy Robinson. Thank you so much for joining me, Randy.
No problem, man. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I've been following Serenity's story since I first learned about her in 2020, and I feel like my opinion has softened quite a bit as far as Leslie goes. When I first started blogging about these kids, I was all about tearing into these parents, but it's more nuanced. Knowing how Leslie's addiction has had so much to do with this, and how hard addiction can grip someone, I definitely have a softer stance on that. I know for a fact she didn't mean to cause any harm to your daughter.
Right.
And I wonder if people will be able to accept that or to understand it, because so many people look at these things in black and white. It's either you're good or you're bad, but people just aren't all good or all bad.
Right. I mean, good people make mistakes. You know, good people make bad choices. I mean, nobody's perfect at the end of the day, you know.
Aside from her addiction problems, Leslie really did seem to love Serenity and cherish her.
Yeah, those two were like, Thelma and Louise, man, they did have a great relationship. She was really close with her mom, which is where I can get the strength to have the forgiving heart toward her in this situation. I mean, granted, it's one of the worst mistakes one can make, or irresponsible. You know, she could have been more responsible, but how I look at it is the intentions behind people's actions. And I know that there's no way that, you know, Leslie would intentionally hurt my baby, you know?
Do you want to talk about Leslie?
Well, I met Leslie at a friend's house, and she was the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life. From the moment I saw her, I was in love with her. But the thing is, I was married, so I wouldn't. I wound up violating probation and going to jail, and then she went off to New York. So I hadn't seen her in a year or two. And when I got out of jail, I went back to visit somebody in jail, a female friend of mine. And just so happened, this is 2 years later, Leslie was picking somebody up. And that's how I ran back into Leslie. So the next day, she came back to my house and met up with me, and we just never left each other's side from that day.
And how long did you guys actually date?
We dated for about a year and a half. Okay, so she moved in with me. At this time, she was addicted to heroin. I guess she went up to get clean, came back and messed up again. So she had a heroin addiction. And this is personal, but I want to share it. You know, I wanted to help her. I've always wanted, from the day I've met her, I've always wanted her, because she's got so much more potential about herself. I didn't want to, you know, I couldn't accept her just being where she was at in life. So one day she was like, when we was talking about it, I'm like, baby, are you going to quit? Like, you need to stop doing this shit. Like, and she was like, man, I think I need a baby. I think I want a baby. I pray for God to give me a baby so that I can stop. I need something big to happen. Next thing you know, here it is. We 3 months in a relationship, and we're laying in my bed in my room, and my mom came and sat down next to us on the bed and told us that we're going to have a baby. Like 3 days later, Leslie's in the laundry room, and I look at her, and I'm like, man, are you pregnant? And I go get an EPT, and she was pregnant. She was 2 weeks pregnant, man. It's crazy how that came about, man.
That was around, what, the end of 2015?
Yeah.
So Serenity was born
August 24th.
Yeah. Was she full term?
Yeah, pretty much. She was like maybe 2 weeks earlier, or maybe a week.
So DCF got involved right away?
So Serenity was born addicted to heroin, yes, ma'am. And throughout this pregnancy, her mom would not stop doing it. You know, so I'm forced to purchase this stuff in order to keep my daughter alive. It's kind of like the situation. You know, I would say, no, I'm not buying no more of this. And I'll take her to the emergency room. And then I remember one time went to Cape Coral Hospital, and I begged the doctor I guess he had like a pediatric office outside, and he was like, man, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with outpatient, blah, blah, blah. I offered to pay him to please do it, and he just finally gave in and said, man, all right, you know, I guess he may be a father. He can understand, bro. So Leslie went like 3 or 4 times, and they would find all different drugs. She had cold, she had this, she had that. You know, so obviously when I'm asleep, she would leave off with somebody to call somebody when I'm asleep, bro. For her to have all these other drugs like coke and Dilaudid and stuff like that. The pediatrics stopped seeing her.
Oh, okay. So they knew she had an addiction and they just stopped seeing her?
The one from the Cape Coral Hospital, they stopped dealing with her. They cut her off. They said, we're not going to.
That's crazy. You'd think they'd try to help her, you know?
Yeah, why would you just turn your back on at least for the kid, bro? Like, you know, it's just, so all this is weighing on me, and I'm trying to I gotta deal with this, because if I don't, my daughter would be in her stomach just kicking and going nuts. And I know I've seen what it do with like grown-ups. So I can imagine what my kid in her belly's going through, man. You know what I mean? Like the withdrawals. Well, we made it through the pregnancy. My baby was born, healthy baby. You know, other than the fact that the withdrawals or whatever, she had to go to the NICU for a month and a half in Sarasota. So I had to drive up to Sarasota to see her.
Okay, they let you see her.
Well, yeah, I could see her in the hospital and stuff. I mean, the judge gave us supervised visits. What happened was we went to court and we gave Leslie's sister temporary custody. They gave us a case plan. I'm a foster child myself, so I know how it is. And after going through all this, for them to take my kid was very devastating to me, man. It was just hard for me to deal with, and it triggered. I started getting back in addiction. Now, for 2 months, I would go on the weekend, so I work all week, 10 hours a day, so I'll go like on a Friday and go see Serenity, bring diapers or whatever. And then out of nowhere, the husband tells me, oh, well, the DCF people said you're going to come 1 day a week for an hour or something. I'm like, what are you talking about? So they tried to lie to me. This is the sister who has temporary. The judge asked me, was it okay for me to let Leslie live with them with the baby? And I was like, yeah. So Leslie was there, so the baby could have at least one of us, but she couldn't be alone with the kid. So she'd go to work with her sister and bring the baby or whatever. And her sister does cleaning. But they turned on me. They just completely turned on me, like out of nowhere.
Like it was your fault or something.
Yeah, everything is blamed on me, and I'm the one who, not to degrade, Leslie, anything, but the truth is the truth, man. That was hard for me to deal with too, man. All of a sudden, now y'all the heroes and y'all better than me, and what was y'all at this whole pregnancy when y'all turned your back on the girl? Bro, they turned on me, and Leslie went back to her ex-boyfriend who got out of prison. I didn't even see my kid for 6 months. I don't even, she hid with the guy and my baby. I didn't know, nobody would tell me anything. And the mother was like, well, you come to my house when I call the police. It was terrible, bro. I mean, I don't even understand where that came from. So eventually, I guess, her conscience got to her and she started sneaking to me with Serenity. She would come to my house and bring my baby and everything. So one day she came and picked me up and we went to South Fort Myers. She just told me, she didn't tell me where we was going. I didn't care. I just wanted to be around, Serenity. At this time, Serenity was like eight months maybe. And she just started walking. I used to walk with her and everything. She doesn't let anyone put her in that car seat but me. I'm the only person that she don't give a problem with putting her in that car seat. That was being her thing. And I give her an Eskimo kiss and, rub noses. So we go into South Fort Myers. We pull up at these apartments and Leslie gets out, walks toward the apartment. I sit in the car with the baby. So as she approaches, she's coming back to the car, the phone rings and the phone is on Bluetooth. So it's ringing in the car and the call ID's on the radio screen, whatever. And I see it say Ashley, DCF. So the DCF worker is on the phone asking, did you get it? Not realizing that Leslie's phone is on Bluetooth and I'm hearing everything. So Leslie jumps in the car and tells me to shh. She shushes me and they continue to talk. And she was like, yeah, it was in the mailbox, blah, blah, blah. So after that, Leslie puts Percocets in her mouth. I'm like, are you serious?
So the DCF worker was providing Leslie with...
She was selling her pills, bro. She wasn't even giving them to him. She was selling it to her.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
Now, on top of that, before I make it back home, before Leslie dropped me off back home and go about a day, she called the lady back because the caseworker in Collier County, which is where her and her sister and the baby were living, her sister lives in Collier County, she called the lady back and told her that case manager was trying to get a UA from her, like a urine test, and she didn't know what to do. So the lady Ashley told her, the GCF worker was like, well, don't worry about it. I'm going to call him and tell him that I gave you one. I already UA'd you. Not only is she selling Leslie pills, man, she was falsifying, lying about covering up.
Yeah, she warned her that there was a urine test coming up. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. If Leslie got positive, she'd probably tell on her. So she probably, it doesn't take a rocket scientist.
Wow. So that was when Serenity was under a year old?
Right. We still had the case going.
And how long did the case go on for?
Well, Leslie did her part. Well,
on paper.
And, I never understood why this lady was so mean toward me. Like, it's like everybody was making me the problem. I'm like, I'm not the one carrying the baby, bro. I'm not the one I had to buy this stuff for her in order to keep my daughter alive. Do you realize what that was doing to me, bro? Like, is anybody even considering what's really going on? I can't make her not do something. Ultimately, she's going to have to make that decision. What am I supposed to do? When she comes up to me and my kids and they're withdrawing, going bananas, kicking, and Like, I don't want my kid to die, you know what I'm saying?
So while the case was going on, basically, Leslie got through it by doing her part on paper, and DCF just...
Yeah, I guess in the help with the lady Ashley, you know, I mean, but she did do her classes or whatever, you know. I'm not trying to take anything from her. That's one thing that I asked her, whatever you got going on, whenever I did get a chance to talk to her, just please make sure you finish the classes. If I don't get to it before you, whatever. And she did finish the classes. However she got through them, she got through them. So
After you found out about the DCF worker selling drugs to Leslie, what happened from there?
whatever, like these little periodic pop-ups from her. She would pop up, sneak away from the guy and come bring me. I'm like, what? So I called the guy and I'm like, hey, look, man, I don't know what you and Leslie got going on, but that's my little girl. And, you know, I want to see my daughter, bro. I don't got nothing to do with that. My daughter ain't got nothing to do with that, man. And this guy just tells me, oh, Leslie's the boss. So apparently this is all Leslie's decision. So she's lying to me, acting like the man got a problem, but really she's just trying to be selfish. I don't know what to call that, man. I don't know, man. It's just, that was one thing that I had a problem with her with.
Yeah, like a weird control thing or something.
And so her mother at this time was dating a convicted registered rapist, murderer. This guy just got out of prison doing 25 years for raping and killing a lady.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you? And now they letting my kids stay there.
Really? Did DCF know about that?
I told DCF them that, bro. We had to sit down in a meeting, and I told these people, and they completely blew me off. It's like I was talking in the air. I'm telling you, this whole situation is crazy, man. You know, they ain't showing me no respect, man. No empathy. I haven't even, and they expect me to just sit around and accept that, man. I don't understand it. It's like they want to try to punish me, you know, like I'm doing, beat me getting mad about something they doing type stuff. You know what I mean? So Leslie tells me about waking up with her mom's boyfriend fondling her.
Oh my God.
And she tells her mom, and her mom puts her out.
Really?
And her mom, let me tell you about her mom. And I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm just giving the truth because I'm going to speak up for my daughter because she deserved it. She didn't deserve to die like she did. She didn't deserve any of the shit she went through. She didn't deserve to be addicted to heroin and born. She didn't deserve anything my poor little girl went. So like Leslie's mom has more kids. Leslie has siblings, but Leslie is like her baby. So she's like over controlling, over zealous about Leslie. She'll lie for her. She's an enabler.
What about Leslie's boyfriend?
I guess they weren't together then. They had fell out. This is a little bit later on.
Got it. Okay. So her mom, Margot, kicked her out.
Yeah, mom put her out. Her and my daughter.
And then where did she go?
She went to a friend, Jessica, I believe, her best friend. I don't know why she wouldn't bring my daughter to me, or she could have came to us, but she didn't. I think she was hiding because at this time she had started really getting back high and stuff, and she didn't want me to know because she probably knew I would have took my daughter from her, or she probably was scared I'd put DCF back on her.
So the case was done by then?
Yeah, the case was done by then, so she went back there. When she started getting back high and stuff, she wouldn't come around. In fear of probably me calling DCF, which I wouldn't have called DCF. I don't want my kid going through that. I probably would have took my daughter from her.
Yeah, no doubt. How old was Serenity then?
Like a little over 1, probably 1.5 or something like that.
Did she stay with Jessica for pretty much the whole time after that?
Yeah, then she got with this one guy, and now they live in a motel. So she found her a dealer, which is what a lot of girls do, you know, these days. They find them a dealer so they can support their habit or whatever, you know. That's just the way it is.
So he was a dealer. Okay.
Yeah, he was a dealer.
So she had Serenity in and out of motels and stuff.
Yeah. The guy did rent a separate room for just her and Serenity. They stayed for lengths of time, though. It's not like every night there's a different room or different motel and stuff like that. They pretty much set up shop places or whatever. I know I would pick Serenity up from a motel from whenever I can find her.
I'll pause here for one final sponsor break.
There was one time I was in jail, right? And the girl I was with at the time was like, man, your baby and Leslie's down there at a prostitute house. Like, They was selling women out of the house, whatever.
Oh, God.
And I said, what? Go get my daughter. So she go down there, knock on the door, whatever. I'm on the jailhouse phone while it's going on. And the girl who answered the door tried to lie. And I was like, look, man, my daughter now, I don't care what Leslie got going on. I advise you to give my girl my daughter. So she wound up giving my daughter, waking Leslie up. Leslie gave Serenity to my girl at that time, and she took her home. Leslie don't even remember it. She didn't even know what Serenity was when she woke up.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah, so anything could have happened to my baby in this house, and she don't even know because she's knocked out on whatever's going on. And I'm in jail. This is right before all this happened.
So this was around the end of 2019? Was that Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly, yeah.
How long did Leslie let Kelly keep her?
Well, Leslie would come to our house and sleep and eat. And
She was friends with Kelly, right?
yeah, they were friends. Well, yeah, as much as they could be.
That was good that Kelly let her come and sleep and eat. It shows that Leslie had a lot of support.
Yeah, she's just in addiction, man. It's a terrible disease, man. The last day that I had with Serenity was the night before I had to go to court and go turn myself in. I just caught a driving on suspended charge, so I had to turn myself in. They gave me 2-week furlough to get all my stuff in order before I can go in. So I went to see her, and she was staying back with her mom at this time with Margot. I went over to see her, and we colored together, and she was showing me all her little Barbie dolls, and she was very proud. It was so cute, and she gave me kisses and sugar, and I used to have to run after her to get sugar from her. That was her thing. She would not just give me sugars. Ever since a baby, I had to run after her crawling. It was crazy. It's just our little thing.
She just wanted you to chase her.
Yeah. But I sat down with her and I colored and, we did this and I told her and I was like, Daddy got to go to jail, Mama. I'm coming back, baby, okay? And she was so sad.
Aww.
I didn't want to leave. I did not want to leave. Something told me not to leave her. I went in and I'm sitting in the RSAP program because I volunteered to go on a drug program in jail so that I can because I still had my case going. I never completed my DCF case, because I was like, man, I don't need these people to tell me I can see my kid or not. I mean, I'm not a threat to my child. I was being ignorant about it. So I go in, I volunteer, I get in the drug program, RSAT, and I'm working on my parenting and anger management because Leslie at this point has gotten so bad to where I have to take my kid from her, bro. And the only way she's going to let me do it without it turning into somebody going to jail, I have to do it the legal way. So I'm working on that in jail. And one morning I get up for class and the teacher walks up to me that morning. The first thing, he walks and he whispers to me, he said, man, you got death on you. You got to change. And it wore on me, bro, to the point where I got kind of offended. 2 days later, I go up to him and say, man, what made you say some shit like that to me, bro? And normally you brush stuff off, but this, for some reason, it weighed on me. And that week, I woke up, I had a dream that I got shot in the head. And then I woke up and I got to the phone, I called Margot and I said, Margot, don't let my baby get back in that van. Please don't let her get back in that van. She said, oh, no, she don't mess with her no more, the girl Carly. So she's like, no, they're not friends no more. That's what I tell you. Margot just lies for Leslie. She's an enabler, not realizing, bro, that's not going to help Leslie, bro. But anyway, so she lied to me about it. And here we go 2 days later, I'm getting pulled out of my cell with 50 cops, and they telling me my daughter's dead, man.
And that was the same van they pulled over in January, but you didn't know about that yet.
No, I found this out when my baby died. 2 days, I was on the phone with Kelly, and she was like, oh, wait a minute. They just got pulled over last month. They had drugs and meth and fentanyl, all this stuff, and needles and stuff, and the man let them go. She came back home with the stuff.
So Kelly remembered that, and that's how the internal affairs investigation started?
Here's what happened. Kelly, for some reason, took a picture of the van's tag one day, or maybe that day. She took a picture of the van tag. So we called on a 3-way to figure out about the traffic stop to get the officer name. So we use the tag. They give us the officer name. Boom, boom. I hang up with them. We 3-way to the police station. I called Tyler Williams. He wasn't in. It was in the morning time. I guess he worked night shift. He returned my call later that day at like around 7, I think, if I can remember. And it just so happened I was on the phone because I left Kelly's number because I'm in jail. Obviously, I don't have a return number. Just so happened I was on the phone with Kelly when he returned it. So she just merged it. He don't know I'm on a jailhouse phone.
Wow, so she merged it and he didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, so I asked him, man, like, what was you thinking, bro? What would possess you to leave my daughter in that situation is what I asked him. And he lied to me.
Oh.
He lied to me. I said, why wouldn't you call DCF, man, and remove my daughter, bro, from that situation? And he shot the phone down and said, F. But I heard it, like, because I guess it was an office phone, it doesn't cover up all the way if you set it on the desk. And he got back on the phone and was like, yeah, I did call DCF.
But you were able to find out that he didn't.
Right. So I said, all right, you know what, man, I'm going to go ahead and I got off the phone with him because he really was, the fact that you sit up there and lie, I don't need to talk to you no more. There's no point in talking to you. And I called IA, Internal Affairs, immediately after that, and they did their thing.
And then by November, the charges got dismissed.
Yeah, they put in a motion to dismiss. And the grounds for dismissal is lack of evidence.
That is absolutely ridiculous. And now I guess the state's attorney can't revisit those charges?
Bro, I called her immediately. You don't think I called the state attorney and asked her what was that all about? And she told me, I said, aren't you going to appeal it? I want you to appeal it. And she told me blatantly, no, I'm not appealing it. We're not going to appeal it. And that was the end of the conversation.
I can't imagine how mad you were at that second.
Man, I'm telling you, man. And I was in jail when this happened, so they put me in on observation for a little while, a couple of weeks.
I can imagine.
It's been tough, man. I still have no closure, man. I still have to live with this pain in me. I mean, it's enough pain losing your kid. Then you got to deal with, their part on how they handle it. It's offensive. It's offensive, man. It's disrespectful. It's like they're being passive. And they're not holding themselves accountable for their own actions. And they want to beat me getting mad. I don't understand that. They want to make me out the wrong guy for trying to get some kind of justice for my daughter, bro, behind something you did.
It has to be something to do with the bonds between law enforcement or something. It's so egregious.
Well, it's obvious. So throughout this, once I've gotten the IA involved, blah, 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 now I contact an attorney. His name is William Dilly. He's in Fort Lauderdale. He asked my case. He's like, man, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. We're having these conversations. They accepted my calls, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, well, we're going to wait to see if he get arrested. So it turns out he get arrested. Okay. Now, he's got my case 4 or 5 months, right? 6, 7 months. I look on the clerk of court, man. I don't see anything filed anywhere, man. Why haven't you filed the initial complaint yet?
And he was going to do a civil action?
Yeah. Okay, so now he says give him a couple of days. I call him back, and he's fired and tells me he can't help me no more. Just out of nowhere. No explanation why he quit my case or nothing.
Wow, that was his decision? To quit your case, he decided to quit or they fired him?
He got fired and he told me he couldn't help me. So I hired another, John Deal. This guy's up in Central Florida. And I guess he's trying to do the same thing. What I'm thinking is, this is my concept. All right, this is the government. Okay, they do have a police union, and they do have deep pockets. So what I'm thinking is they may have gotten to these attorneys or maybe got a little dirt on them or maybe they paid them off. I don't know what the case may be, man. It's all, just assumptions. Maybe they were there to prolong me so that I can run out of my statute of limitations.
What is the wrongful death civil action statute of limitations in Florida? Do you know?
2 years.
Oh, God. So, yeah, it's past that already.
Yeah, so 3 months in with John Deal, I'm like, hey, man, you haven't filed anything. Like, I'm not falling for this shit again. You know what I mean? I'm not going to fall for the same thing. And then he tells me, man, I can't help you. And he quit my case with no explanation.
So how long did he have your case?
3 months. As soon as I asked him about why haven't he filed, 2 days later, he quit my case.
That was in 2021?
Yeah.
So that's the problem you're having now, is that you can't find someone even willing to take your case.
Yeah. These attorneys have told me, man, you have a great case. Basically, one guy was like, man, if you was able to do it, you can go in there yourself. It's just so, there's no way that they can get around you. The amount of evidence that you have Anyone can win this case. But we don't want to get involved with Fort Myers, man. We don't want to deal with them people down there. This is what they telling me, man.
Other attorneys are telling you this.
Yeah. One guy told me, he said, man, I'm sorry for your loss. I have a 3-year-old daughter myself, man. You got a great case, but I got a wife and kids. Like, I don't even know how to take that.
Right, like what danger did he think he'd be in?
Yeah, is it dad or is his life in danger? Is my life in danger? Like, what does that mean, man? Like,
yeah, it's either his life or livelihood.
Right, you know?
I can see why you're beyond frustrated and why you've had a hell of a 4 years. That's more than anyone can take.
Like, just do the right thing, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I filed a federal lawsuit myself. I got tired of it. I filed a Section 1983 civil case in federal court this past year, and it got dismissed without prejudice, so I can go back. But here's the thing: I'm not an attorney, and I'm not a personal representative. Margot is the personal representative, which I did not agree with. Don't even know how that happened. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to tell you: that Leslie and her mom and Jessica, Leslie's friend, before even letting me know my daughter was dead, tried to cremate my daughter without my permission.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they went down there pretending Jessica was the auntie and her, Margot, and Leslie tried to cremate. Didn't even let me know my daughter was dead yet, bro.
That is awful. So you found out in time?
No, when I call them, I have Kelly call Leslie and ask them, what happened? And they're like, the first thing they say, hey, baby, can you sign for the cremation? I'm like, what the are y'all talking about, man? I just found out my daughter dead. You asked me to burn her? They didn't tell me that they went down there to do that. The funeral guy did. That's how I found out about all that. Because I spoke with the funeral guy. I'm like, man, don't let them cremate my daughter. I don't know what. He's like, no, sir, Mr. Robinson. You're the father. I would not disrespect you like that, sir. I would not allow them. She came down here with her mom and somebody named Jessica, her aunt, apparently. I was like, no, that's not her auntie. That's not Leslie's sister. She is absolutely no relation to her.
Did they ultimately end up cremating Serenity, or was she buried?
Yeah, I wound up letting Margot manipulate me into doing it. Well, I did want to keep my daughter, so I don't know, man. I was a wreck, bro. I was a wreck.
Of course. Did they let you keep her then?
Yeah, I had Kelly take him back over because me and Kelly fell out, so I had her take it to Margot because I got half of the ashes and Leslie got the other half.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm glad they at least gave you that respect. It seems like they've kind of disrespected you the whole time.
I don't know. I don't know if I can even trust that. Because I found out Kelly just admitted that they call her talking about put fake actions in and give her all, like, because they're so, like, they feel like they're the only one that cares for my kid. I don't understand. It's weird, man.
Yeah, it's really a control thing. It sounds like the whole family has a control issue.
Yeah, and they lie.
It's so infuriating, the whole thing. And then knowing that Tyler Williams left the Fort Myers Police Department and then went to Hendry County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
That picture the sheriff's office posted of him beside his car, and everybody was making all these thirsty comments.
Yeah, nah, that's all right. I mean, I don't want to hold any resentment or be bitter. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a child of God, man, and it's required of me to have a forgiving heart. You know, I'm just finding that I'm never going to accept nothing not coming out of this, bro. I just won't. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. I mean, that's unacceptable. It's just not acceptable, bro.
There's no way he should be able to be serving and protecting, in air quotes, after he literally told Leslie he just didn't feel like calling DCF that morning. It's so beyond egregious. It makes me so mad.
Who does that?
Right. Who's that lazy? It's unbelievable. I mean, he saw drugs in the van. Who cares who it belongs to?
Well, what I've come to understand is Serenity was their pawn to get Leslie and Carly to wear a wire to go make a control buy. Because Leslie came to Kelly's house throughout this whole little process. She was weird. She was walking out the door to talk on the phone. Boom, boom. She disappeared, came back. And then Margot was like, okay, baby, it's over. You can come home now. So Kelly probably knows what went on. She just didn't want to just blatantly tell me that. She just kind of like indirectly telling me, you know what I mean? And it does make sense. That's basically what's behind his decision. But here's the thing. It's more than him involved in that decision because he has to get the okay from upper heads. You know what I mean? So I can see how dangerous this situation can be for anyone, you know, not saying that trying to badger the police department or whatever, man. I don't have a problem with law enforcement or anything like that, man. I'm not that kind of person, man. I don't care what anybody's doing, what they like, you know, as far as me, you know, trying to judge somebody or something. I got my own issues. If I can help you, I can help you. And that's what I like to do, man. but I don't like to be nobody's format. Like, I'm a good guy, but I'm not a format. You know, I'm not gonna let people just do anything to me. You know, I haven't even gotten a letter of apology, bro. I haven't even gotten apology, just an apology, bro.
That would mean an admission. I don't think you'll ever hear that from them.
There's nothing. There's all over body cam. It's not a secret.
What more evidence did they need? But
Right. I mean, it's on jailhouse phone calls recorded. I mean, what else you need, bro? You got the chief of police coming on the news saying that this man failed to protect my daughter, failed in his lawful duty. That's an admission itself, isn't it?
I think Fort Myers Police, the whole department, has a lot to answer for. But who's going to make them answer it? That's the problem, is that you can't get someone to represent you to get those answers.
Right. And then Margot doesn't want to do anything. It's like when I talk to them about it, they go to talking about Leslie just worrying about her. And then Margot was like, my daughter's got 15 years in prison. I'm like, Margot, my daughter's dead, bro. I will never see my daughter again. I don't want to hear nothing about your daughter got 15 years, man. I mean, I'm sorry she in prison, but I'm never going to see my kid again, bro. I don't want to hear about you whining about your daughter being in prison when she killed my kid, bro.
Yeah, I can understand having that. There's part of you that forgives Leslie, but then there's the other part that understands how responsible she was.
It's like she is not being considerate of me, what she's done to me. Like, you know what I mean? Don't do that now. Damn, I'm trying to be good to you, man. Don't try to undermine me in this situation, though, you know?
She's more worried about her own stay in prison than she is about actual justice for the child that you share.
Right. She acts like when she talks like that, it makes me feel like she's not considering my hurt and my pain, what like the effect that it's had on me. Like it's not all about you, Leslie. It's not even about me. It's about our baby, you know? It's not about your selfish little... She's a brat. My baby mama's a brat, man. She is spoiled. She's spoiled. I mean, I love her, man. I love her. I know my daughter loved her mom, man. She loved her mom a lot, you know? She really did love her mom a lot. It was nice to see that. And because I love my daughter so much, bro, you know, when you love somebody, you love what they love. You know what I mean?
You have love for Leslie as well, and that doesn't just go away.
Right.
Can we just talk for a minute about Serenity, who she was?
Serenity she had charisma. She was a sweet little girl. She was quiet unless she knew you. Like when she came to my house, she was running around, but wow, but then you could take her, you know, other places and other people's houses, she'd be quiet. She won't go to nobody. She's kind of like, she's not really comfortable with people she don't know. She's got a beautiful smile. She's a beautiful kid. She loves the trampoline. She doesn't like sitting on baby potties. I used to have to put her on the toilet. And my baby and she's a fighter. She doesn't take no crap though. I don't think she's a little cute, little innocent little thing. But if you hit her or take something from her, one time she hit with a remote control for bothering
She
her.
just wasn't having it.
No, she fights. She was little, but she fights. She don't care.
She stood up for what she believed in, just like her dad.
That's right. That's right. She's got a lot of her dad in her. She does have a lot of her dad in her.
She definitely is so beautiful, and that smile and her sassy little personality just comes out of every photo.
Oh, yeah, bro.
She's just so cute.
Right. She's got that thing going on with her, man. She gets that from me, too, though. Well, her mom, too. She was a great kid, man. She was a great little girl, good little kid, man. I didn't have any problems out of it. Anytime she was with me, she was laughing, she was happy or quiet, you know?
Do you have a favorite memory of her?
Yeah, I like when she used to call me to get off the toilet. She'd say, Daddy, you help me. It just sounded so cute when she do that, you know? I think all my memories with her was favorite. Like, she was my baby, man. You know what I mean? My last one. It was my baby girl, bro.
And she's your fourth?
Yeah, I have 3 other kids my 3 older kids are from my high school sweethearts.
I'm so sorry that this all had to happen to you and that it wasn't just as bad as losing your daughter, but also having to deal with all this other garbage afterward.
Yeah.
If anyone out there knows of a Florida attorney who will accept this case, get in touch with me. I'll get you in touch with Randy. You deserve to be represented. You deserve to get justice for your daughter. Some parents might use this as a money grab or whatever, but this doesn't feel like that at all to me. This is just the right thing to do.
Right, man. I mean, no amount of money is going to give me my daughter back, man.
Right.
But do something, bro. Anything. You know?
Someone has to be held accountable, not just Leslie.
Right. Y'all take this lady in addiction and just use her and abuse her and throw her in prison and, you know, put everything on her. And that's not cool, man. when your DCF workers were selling the drugs and had to play a part in her relapse. I don't know. I miss my baby, man.
I can only imagine. I'm so sorry. I'm glad that you have all these great memories with her and all these beautiful pictures of her, and I'm sure she's proud of you for fighting for her. Hopefully someone will reach out. All we can do is ask.
You know, I'm not trying to ruin people's life and careers, and that's not what I'm representing my daughter for.
I can understand.
Yeah, I'm open to, like, I'll sit down with the chief and try to resolve this, without throwing it in court and bringing everybody, because I don't even know how far that went. As far as, like, the chain of command, I don't know. I'm not doing anything that any other father would do, man, for their kid. We can come to some kind of agreement and conclusion, man, and, I'll be able to have closure, man, and I can move forward. Instead of having this hindering over and just having to relive this every time I call a lawyer, every day, every other day, like there's something should be done, man. And just do the right thing, bro. I'm not asking y'all for $50 million. I'm not asking y'all to buy me a car or buy me a house. I'm not asking you for nothing. I'm just asking you to do the right thing. I'm gonna leave it at your leisure, bro. I just want something done behind what y'all done, other than opposed to what you're doing, which is absolutely nothing, bro. For that officer to sit on that stand and say he didn't have a reason to call DCF was a spit on my daughter's grave, man. I mean, obviously, bro, I don't have to say it. You know what's going on with that.
It all comes down to what's important to them, and they made it obvious that it wasn't your 3-year-old daughter's life.
Right, man. So, yeah, but Serenity was a great baby, man. She was a good kid. She was outgoing with the people that she loved and knew. She likes to dance. She likes music. She likes rabbits. She loved rabbits and her Barbies, bro. She was so proud of them. She called them her babies.
Aw.
And of course, I'm a dad. I'm like, baby, you ain't finna have no babies.
Right.
Not that many. But she lay them all down on the couch. She'd be going fast. Like, Daddy, look, put them all in a row,
Well, I appreciate you telling us about her and who she is, and whatever I can do to help keep her memory alive, I will do it.
Well, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak about my daughter.
Thank you so much to Randy for talking so candidly with me. My heart goes out to him, his other kids, and everyone who loved Serenity, the sassy, curly-haired, sweet little girl they called Moo Moo. Rest well, Serenity Rose Robinson. You'll always have a piece of my heart. My sources for this episode were Wink News, the News Press, Mullins Memorial, the Police Tribune, Lee County Court Documents, the Lee County Sheriff's Office, the Fort Myers Police Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement website, the Florida Department of Corrections website, South Central Florida Life, Facebook, and Randy Robinson. Now, a few quick shout-outs to my newest patrons. Thank you to Marchie F. from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Ida P. from Cary, North Carolina, and from Dr. Lecter's Basement, thank you to Angela C., Syringa W., and Janelle T. I truly appreciate all of my patrons for your help keeping the lights on while I create this podcast. If you'd like to help support the show, you can visit patreon.com/stlcpod. That's it for this episode. Join me next time for another child's story. If you like the show, please follow or subscribe to Suffer the Little Children on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast listening app. And please leave me a 5-star rating and a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. Visit the website at sufferthelittlechildrenpod.com. You can support the show by visiting patreon.com/stlcpod, where you can become a patron for rewards ranging from a shout-out by name on the show to bonus content and exclusive gifts. You can also support the show at ko-fi.com/stlcpod. Follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Suffer the Little Children Pod and on TikTok at STLCpod. View photos related to today's episode on Facebook. This podcast is researched, written, hosted, edited, and produced by Lane. Intro theme music is by Dreamnote Music, and all music for the show is licensed from audiojungle.net. For more information about preventing or reporting child abuse, visit childhelp.org or call your area's child abuse hotline. And remember, if you see something, say something.